Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for another exciting podcast. Today's topic is going to be Edge AI and how it's really transforming the enterprise and the edge to incorporate metrics and observations and key data points that we've never seen before. My special guest today is Wei Yeang Toh. He is from Intel. He serves as the General Manager of Ecosystem Development Organization within Intel's Network and Edge Solution Group. He leads strategic ecosystem development and market expansion initiatives across the edge and network solutions. Hi, Wei Yeang, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. Happy to be here.
All right. Today we've got a really interesting podcast delving into Edge AI. A lot of people, including myself, think of Edge AI in different types of perspectives. We at ADLINK have Edge AI deployments, mostly in 5G segments, in transportation segments where I guess algorithms and AI algorithms are already pre-programmed to do very specific functions, whether it's detect objects on a railway track, look at 5G signal integrity, do some predictive analytics on whether signal strengths are going down. This is a slightly different approach. Tell us a little bit about Edge AI, what's the big buzz at Intel, and how it's really transforming the enterprise and the edge.
Hey, certainly. Hey, thanks for the question. First thing first. So if we're looking at the Edge AI, first of all, the entire market is going through a very exciting development. This sector is experiencing a remarkable growth, and we're looking at overall Edge AI market projected to expand from approximate like 21 billion-ish of the market size to about 63 billion-ish, I want to say, by 2030. And several key factors are driving the growth, right? Things like, for example, the demand for more real-time data processing and closer to where the data from, right? Which is at the edge. The real-time data analysis will require running at the edge for critical, a vertical market like healthcare, manufacturing, telecommunication, and so on. That's one factor. The other factors, as we know, is to reduce the latency by running the data locally, process the data locally. Edge AI significantly will reduce the latency, which is essentially required for applications that are latency sensitive. And then third thing is the enhance their privacy and security. The local data processing will enhance privacy and security, making Edge AI something that attractive options for many organizations, right, to go and consider. So now enterprises are looking for opportunity to utilize AI model that are often trained in the cloud, right? The frontier models driving all the innovation, and now enterprise is looking at the way to consume the model, right? And the goal is to able to utilize the AI models through the selections that best fit for the business application in order to deliver a very specific business outcome. So we're looking at where data will stay local within the enterprise, and by training the AI models selected from the model that they train at the cloud, now enterprise have the opportunity to train those models with local data, and it enable the enterprise to embrace, right, AI for better efficiency and outcome. And then last thing I'm going to say to close it up is with the recent innovation like DeepSeek, as we all know, right, in January timeframe, right, 2025, right, just a month ago, right, it created such a big buzz, and it further changed the entire market narrative with much more affordable path to adopt AI, right? AI should be much more affordable for everyone, and this was just accelerating the entire market adoption rate.
Right. One thing I alluded to earlier was a lot of AI applications are already trained to do specific functions, whether it's facial recognition, detect an object, maybe obstructing a pathway, detect intent, by someone's movements or possible clothing. Now, this is an interesting approach because this data set really hasn't been trained yet. There's infrastructure that gets deployed at the edge, but the data in the individual organization is their data that's being used to train the actual algorithm. Can you help us understand what that is and how that's accomplished? How does an organization really understand the data set that it has, and what meaning they wish to derive to it would, I guess, depend on what type of training they want to do with it?
Yeah, certainly. So if you think about each enterprise, right, across the world, right, every enterprise will evolve, become an AI company, right? And this kind of a realizing right now, right, particularly when we discuss with a lot of customers, they are just recently as well, not a company out there today are not looking at how to consume AI, right? And AI today for enterprise, they're looking at way to integrate into their actual workload. It will be one of the function. It will be one of the functions to support the enterprise application, right? So when enterprise consume AI, and particularly when we talk about vertical industry like retail, healthcare, manufacturing, and etc., the enterprise customer is really thinking about how to run a balance of compute, storage, network security, plus AI as a function in order to deliver the solution. And we take a couple of examples, say, let's take education, for example. There's a solution out there today that Intel enable with the partners with a digital whiteboard with an OPS, a pluggable, say, modules that slot at the back of the digital whiteboard. Within the OPS itself, right, it runs Intel, say, a mobile core CPU. And the whiteboard itself have been evolving as well today with different set of cameras module that can capture, say, students, gesture students, a behavior during the class, right, and teacher how they teach. And by using the Gen AI right now that it introduced into the same solution as part of the integrated functionality, now it helped the teacher able to plan even ahead of time. And based on the past experience, based on the class summary, right, the teacher right now able to plan ahead of time what are material they need to plan. She or him need to plan ahead of time, as well as how student generally reacts, and maybe particularly here a group of students, right, react towards the teaching method, right. It helps a lot, right, and I see the real implementation. In fact, right, during my recently customer visit, right, it's so exciting, right, and we're talking about the model that integrate into the same system itself is within like 7 and 8 billion, say, a parameter max, right? Because it will be good enough to meet the needs, and it's pretty cost effective to do so, right? So just kind of put that as one example, and there are a bunch of examples out there today, right? Running different model size, right, and introduce Gen AI into part of the application today to improve, right, a very specific outcome.
Okay, that's a very interesting application for the classroom and the students. I wasn't aware of that. So how does one, from an infrastructure standpoint, the actual hardware that runs this, how does one begin to prepare their planning, whether they assess current infrastructure they have? And I guess we're in a growth phase where the next growth or the next evolution of the infrastructure is going to be turning over. How does somebody prepare for that?
Yeah, good question. So if we look at today, first of all, edge computing by different vertical market is a very fragmented industry. Every single vertical industry will have their own market requirement to meet. It's not easy, right? Often it might be high mixed low volume, right, type market opportunity. So in order to enable the vertical industry, right, a application with a form of AI, again, back to the earlier point that I called, right, it requires a balance of compute, storage, network security, and AI come together, right, as different capability resided within the same platform, the same system. And this means we will need to help our ecosystem, our partner, to realize, first thing first, what will be the AI capability that they could utilize with the system that they install today within their facility, right? Without upgrading the system, what would be the possibility of the AI capability that they could host, what type of AI-driven use cases on top of the existing system? So to the end, we believe all the edge computing systems should be edge AI ready. It should be low power. It should be much more sustainable and much more affordable. And Intel Edge AI initiative are broken down to the Edge AI system as well as the Edge AI application enablement, right? Both sides of the house. In terms of system, we are delivering our roadmap organized by mainstream entry, efficiency optimized AI for best TCO, as well as scalable performance for much more flexibility to add on different AI module as needed. By working with our system builder partner like ADLINK, say for examples, right, we deliver a wide range of the Edge AI system, right, size to fulfill a different edge compute market needs, right? And I'll throw a couple of examples, right? We are providing the sizing guide tools as one of the capability to help the customer to understand what will be the possibility to utilize the AI capability out from the existing system. Will help the customer to t-shirt size their system selection based on the performance requirement and help our customer to right size their investment decision with much more systematic recommendation. We also deliver the use cases driven blueprint, which blueprint will mean they put together the configuration guide required for the system itself, as well as the use cases running on top of it. And we're going to do this end-to-end workload benchmarking, right, to help our customer to able to deliver a form of repeatable solution with desired performance and the total cost of ownership TCO. This will help us to support our customer to further tune, optimize their system, right, according to the data on the model that they select. And then it helps the software developer as well now able to access to a wide range and consistent, predictable HAS system delivered by different sites, right? And you're going to support a wide range of the open source tools as well, so that it bring the HAI ready promise, right, in much more affordable manner.
Well, that's a very well thought out strategy by Intel. I'm sure that can really position companies to take best advantage of Edge AI. Let's talk about specific industry examples. One thing that comes to mind is, let's say, smart city solutions. We're seeing these everywhere, cameras mounted on top of poles. Ambulances have real-time data to know which way to go to avoid traffic. What is really the smart city solutions approach to Intel's Edge AI?
Yeah, good question. Thank you. So if we take smart city as an example, right, today, let's break it down by few fold, right? First of all, the cameras or computer vision, rather, right, technologies is getting a lot more mature and affordable within the marketplace, right? Thanks to within the market itself, the wide adoption of the technology, right, computer vision specifically, right, across a different vertical market, and particularly for the smart cities, right, is one of the key drivers. So cameras is getting much more affordable, and cameras is getting more intelligent as well. And to that end, we do see continuously the needs from customer asking for a better, higher performance per core performance, like a type of CPU, right, to run in the industrial PC, say for example, or computer vision controller machine, right? So that's the base, right? So the base itself the base platform will require the higher performance CPU, right, in order to support high resolution camera. So now within the same CPU itself, it will require further workload consolidation, because when we talk about AI, again, AI, it breaks down to probably like threefold, right? One is computer vision AI. Second is generative AI, which is pretty hot, right, topics for past recent 2 years. And then don't forget about the third piece of it, which is time series sensitive AI, right? So Edge AI really consists of three parts, right? Computer vision AI, generative AI, and time series sensitive AI, right? And we talk about three type of the different type of workload, Edge AI workload, plus the compute workloads for vertical market. We need to land on the same architectures. So what we're doing there, working with our partner, is like ADLINK, right? As one example, is to enable the system that first and all come with a high compute, base platform that capable to run a all-in-one, right, within the same architectures, right? We're talking about workload consolidation, again, multi-OS, right, for different workloads, right, to address real-time latency and so on. That's the base. Now, there's an opportunity for customer to utilize either a CPU family like Core Ultra that we run on AI PC, which is selling pretty well lately, right, with the balance of the CPU, integrated GPU, and integrated NPU. Now, customer have additional horsepower to go and bring the other Edge AI workloads on top of it, right? We're talking about either computer vision AI, Gen AI, or time series AI. So that's all in one, right? To keep the TCO in much more affordable and power as well. And then there will be opportunity to add on add-on accelerator card as well, right? So as how the systems build up, often there will be additional slot reserved, right, for future proof in terms of performance needed for future proof. So there'll be additional slot reserved for customer. They're able to add on a accelerator card as needed, and it's really about accelerator for choice in the marketplace. That Intel do have our own accelerator card, that like Better Mage AI that recently launched last year, right? Now, on top of that, we deliver the software, right? The software itself, we recently roll out a software suite, named Metro AI Suite, right, which is really a reference software that consists of three main components. One is sample application that often we use in the smart city. Second will be the software development toolkits that help customers to stitch together the video pipeline in much more easier way to utilize the open source tools like DL streamers and so on, right, to help the customer to stitch together the entire video pipeline. And then third piece of it is the benchmarking, right? We run end-to-end workload benchmarking to help customer to understand when landing Metro AI, which is smart city use cases on top of the system, what would the right sizing of the system selection require, and then how to optimize it further, right? So using that two approach, right, the system approach and the software on top of it, right, software suite, and help the partner to move faster, right? And we see quite a wide interest, right, from customer to continue to evolve their existing solution towards much more all-rounded Edge AI ready system and software, right, to address vertical market like a smart city.
Okay. Now, if we move from smart cities, let's say to healthcare, that's another big field.
Yep.
What would be the difference in both hardware-wise and software-wise, if any, if we're dealing now with healthcare applications? It's much larger data sets, much more compute intensive, but also vision intensive.
Yes, totally, right. Good question, right, Mondo, right? If we look at healthcare, right, interesting thing is when we work with our ecosystem partners, we do realize some of our ecosystem partners, they serve different vertical market at the same time, right? So it's not about just the vertical technology itself. It's about the technology that could reuse across different verticals. So healthcare, particularly, we can break it down to twofold, right? One is the front end. The other one is the back end, right? If we're talking about front end, we're talking about a lot of things related to imaging, right? X-ray, right? Imaging machine, right? And so on. And this will involve a lot of the computer vision, obviously, right? The video display, right? And so on. So we have customers that are designing the education whiteboard that I mentioned earlier on, right? Because of the technology that the customer very familiar with, right? Our customer building the digital whiteboard, right? With OPS at the back. Now the same technology, right, with high resolution imaging, we're able to address the healthcare industry as well as the front end side, right? And we're talking about similar way of implementation, which is selecting the right AI model, right, to train the data, the patient data that coming in from the client side, and help the doctor or the assistant able to analyze and curate the right data, summarize the right data that they are looking for. That's at the front end, right? At the back end, we are talking about often in the healthcare industry, data will not allow to leave the premise, the facility. So therefore, a lot of data will run locally, within local. So this is where we see a different sizing of the system needs depending how big the healthcare institute is. Sometimes it might require a much more large data center that they build themselves. And sometimes it will be much more distributed processing architecture that the healthcare institute will implement a different system, all-in-one system at a different location, right, to process the data locally, right? So we do see the incremental needs from healthcare industry at the back-end side to consume a form of Edge AI server, which ADLINK deliver Edge AI server as well, right, with much more scalable performance that is future-proof, that allowed to add more cut in the future. But then, it will be a balance of compute, which is all the healthcare application, and then plus AI, right, to help to improve a certain business outcome that in mind, right? So we see that two part of it are served by almost like different vendor, different ecosystem in the marketplace, right? So healthcare often we have to break it down by front end and back end, and front end often will be technology that we use across different verticals as well. And same thing when they go to the back end, right? It will be mostly like a data center technology, just depending on the size of the system that the healthcare industry intends to consume.
Right. Now, one thing that's particularly interesting to me is, we all go online, we do social media and so forth. None of that data we own. We give up our right to that data when we,
Yes.
check the box, agree, and accept.
Yes.
In this
Exactly.
case, when you're dealing with healthcare and you're dealing with smart cities, you're dealing with a lot of, intellectual property. You're dealing with a lot of private data, especially in the healthcare field. Who owns that data? Does it remain with the organization, or is the data transmitted over the wide area network, cellular network? How can you protect the integrity of that data for the organization?
Yeah, so what often for key verticals industry, like especially like healthcare, education, right? Smart city, right? Those are a pretty regulated industry, right? And a lot of time, most of the time, the data will have to stay locally, right? Within the permits, right? And this is where we see the needs has been growing, right? To not only store the data, right? This is related to storage, as well as processing the data, which is compute, and then now plus AI to make to turn the data become something much more useful, right? To support overall efficiency, right? So those will continue. This scenario continue to grow, right? With the demand of having more prime on-premise tile system build up, and then we continue to see some of the application that it meant to be running at the cloud, right? Business application running in the cloud, right? SAP and so on, right? Will continue to run at the cloud, and it will serve different industry, and it will continue to run at the cloud, right? But then the data will remains on premise for those vertical market. It will not go out. Yeah.
Okay, that I imagine that takes a lot of the apprehension for organizations such as healthcare to start with this. So,
Yep.
if I'm interested in this, and let's say I'm an IT manager or a senior executive in an organization, and I'm thinking of beginning this journey, how do I enter? Who do I talk to? How do I begin sizing my infrastructure to make it ready?
Yeah, good question. What I'll suggest, obviously, reach out to us, right? Both ADLINK and Intel, right? ADLINK bring a number of years of rich experience in different vertical market that understand the customer within the verticals industry itself that can serve them better from channels, experience perspective. And then Intel will come in to provide as advisory role, right? With different tools and support, right? To help customer to go through the entire journey, right? Say, for example, from the beginning of purely trying to understand what will be my existing infrastructure capability, right? So we do have a sizing guide tools that will help customer to run it in GUI form, graphic user interface form, pretty easy to navigate, right? To understand the generic workload or enterprise-driven workloads running on the system today that a install base. What will be the capability? Let's start there first, right? We can support you to plan and understand what will be the capability that you can extract out from your system today to run AI. That's one. And then it help you to plan ahead at customer, right? Enterprise customer, what will you need to invest, right? By sizing as well, depending on the outcome. I think outcome is very important. What type of outcome they intend to accomplish, right? And backtrack that towards the planning cycles in terms of the investment so that the investment is much more affordable, right? And tied well towards the KPI and outcome they intend to accomplish. So that's the second part, right? The planning phase. And then the third phase of it will be like sizing it right? Through the sizing guide I mentioned early on. Now we can pick the system sizing, and then based on the key use cases that intend to implement, often we'll have a form of the blueprint. It's a use cases driven blueprint that mapped by vertical market will help customer to repeat the entire implementation that happened before in the marketplace, so that it help the customer to understand this is how the solution able to deploy, right? It reduce that learning curve, understand the possible outcome, right? For specific key use cases that land on the system using the blueprint, right? Help you to repeat the entire implementation to understand how things works. And then now the fourth phase of it will be getting into a real implementation, right? Selecting the models, right? Sometimes it might be some form of architectural conversion required from other architecture over to Intel, right? Will help the customer to enable it, right? Tune the performance, right? Make sure that TCOs are up to the market's expectations. And then finally, now we get into the actual implementation that where ADLINK come in, right, with the system, and then we'll pull our software partners all together, come onboarding onto our system. And if we need a OTSI or national SI to come and involve, right, for the entire integration, right, we'll have to involve the integrations team as well, right, so that the entire service level agreement will up to the end users request. Yeah, so that kind of lay out, right, a systematic approach, right? But this is what we can do together, right, to support our customer to help them to accelerate their entire AI adoption journey.
All right. Very exciting. I'm sure we can talk about this for hours, but unfortunately today our time's up. Wei Yeang, thank you so much for joining us discussing Intel's Edge AI strategy and roadmap moving forward. It's been very informative. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
Thank you. Yeah, enjoy it as well.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks, everyone, for joining us for another exciting podcast with Intel on Edge AI. We hope you join us again soon for our next podcast coming up in the near future. Thank you.